Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our live webinar of eIMMIGRATION. On behalf of Cerenade, I want to welcome you today. My name is Vanessa Vargas, and today's topic is about billing, credit card processing, and more. We're going to talk about how you can create invoices, establish payment plans, and reminders, and more. So thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, you can message me. And also know that after the webinar, we're going to send you the copy of the video and the PowerPoint presentation that I am sharing with you today. All right, so let's begin. These are the topics that I'm going to be covering, like I said, today about billing. I'm going to show you how to customize your billing items from the administrator portal, how you can add expenses and create your invoices and add late fees or discounts, of course, how to process the payments. If you want to connect your account with LawPay or PayPal to receive payments automatically, you can also do that. And then once you do that, you can send your clients a link so they can pay online. And of course, you can establish a payment plan and schedule automatic payments. And so if there's a need to provide a refund or just reverse that payment, you can do that. And lastly, I'm going to cover time and billing. For those who have the Timekeeper module, you can also create timed expenses if you charge hourly rates. And if you are subscribed to QuickBooks, I'm going to cover how the integration works. And finally, smart alerts and Tickler. As always, after the webinar, I go over the resources and support options that you guys have. All right, so let's begin. If you have any questions, please do let me know. All right, so I am logging in into my caseworker portal. Now, for those who are new, please know that we have trainings that cover, the basic steps on how to create a contact, how to create cases and work with forms. So we do have videos that you can watch in our YouTube channel. Okay, so how do we customize the billing items in order for us to create invoices? You first need to access your administrator portal, and that's something you access on the top right corner. If you click on the gear icon, go to Administrative Tools. In fact, I always recommend to right-click and open in a new tab. I like to put the administrative portal here so I can always have access. At the same time, I simply switch back to the regular portal. This is a caseworker portal. So from the administrator portal, you can see here on the left, Administrator Home, we're going to click on Billing Items. Here's where you add your billing items, such as this one, consultation. I charge $200 per hour. So you can have different fees. For example, this one, legal fees for naturalization is $5,000. So regardless if you charge a flat fee or an hourly rate, you want to add your billing items. This is the the window, sorry, with the fields. The code is something that you can make up. You probably already have something in your accounting system that you want to use. So just go ahead and enter your code. I usually recommend something simple for you to identify, like naturalization, 5,000. But whatever works for you, you do need to have a code, though this is a mandatory field. This drop-down menu that you guys see here can be customized. So if it's not just legal fees or professional fees, maybe I want to specify this is translation or this is shipping or I don't know, consultation fee. So I want to have different options here. How do I create them? Well, let's cancel out of this and go back to the home screen and look at the types section. You're going to see it right here, billing item types. This is where you can add your billing item types. Just simply enter the name. And you could also delete or modify the existing ones. Okay, so once you have the list that you want, you can go back to your home screen and create your billing items. Now, if you're new or you're simply busy and you don't have the time to specify every single detail, billing item for all the services, what I recommend is that you, at least to get started, create one that's more generic, like this one, a master fee or a master billing item that you're gonna modify or edit anyways, and you're gonna change the amount and the description. So for the code, I maybe, I don't know, recommend the initials or just a very generic code. And again, the type could be just general. You're going to modify the description and the fee. I'll show you right now. Of course, the idea when you get a chance and you have time is that you create more specific items. And not only that, but we recommend that you link them to your package of that specific process. For example, if I go here in the admin to case processes and I say, okay, for the naturalization process, what are the fees that we have associated to that service? Well, it looks like for a naturalization service fee, it's 3,500. So I can add more from this list. Say, it's not just that, but we also charge $150 for a consultation. I don't know, I'm just giving you ideas. So the idea is that when you create a matter, let's say that I'm gonna help a client with an adjustment of status. Well, I can customize what forms are associated to that adjustment of status. What steps do we follow from the consultation until the case is closed? So it's kind of like my timeline, what documents I need to gather, etc. And then here's billing. Here's where I can add those items and understand that whenever I do an adjustment of status, this might be related. Shipment, translation, consultation, or just like a flat fee, like this one. All right, so let's go back to the other portal. Let me know if you guys have any questions about customizing billing items. I'm going to show you now how to add expenses. Now, years ago, you could not create an invoice if you didn't have a case established. Now you can. For example, I can have a prospect and I would just want to charge for a consultation. I never really created a case. So I can just go click on billing, click on invoices, and then just add an invoice that it's going to be without a case. Create an invoice without a case. This is something, well, I was going to say new, but after more than 10 years, you don't know what's new, but this is relatively new. So now you can add invoices and say, you know, this person came for a consultation. I spent this amount of time and I'm going to add the expenses and then just modify. How do I modify? Under the actions, you're going to see select, and this is where you can edit. So I can change this. Maybe I'm just going to call it just consultation. And the consultation date was 2 weeks ago. And even though we charged 200 per hour, it was just, I don't know, half an hour. So you can modify what's going to show up in the invoice, the description, again, like I said, the extended price and the date. And then you could also have, if you're interested, another version of the invoice if you guys don't want to use a default invoice template that we provide. There is an additional fee for our developers to create a custom invoice template, just so you know. Now, this is also optional. If you guys have LawPay or PayPal, you can connect your accounts so that you can select, hey, every time, for at least for this specific invoice, if they pay, send the funds to my merchant trust account or my operational account. So you can choose that. And then lastly, what type of payment, if I want to limit that, if it's just ACH, I recommend just leave it open because you never know. What if the client wants to come in and pay in cash or check or sell? I don't know. And then the last option, if you want to send an email to your clients just to confirming that the payment was processed in case you guys process that payment manually. Again, it's optional. So let's click add. It's going to send us to the invoice. If you have your logo, I recommend that you upload it into the system so that it looks more professional with your logo here. And by the way, if it's a new client and you don't see the address, it's because you haven't entered the address in the system. And you can always do that later. So keep in mind that the amounts or the number here, you cannot modify. Look, if I try to type, it doesn't let me. The only thing that it does let me modify is the text consulta. Like I can just, 30 minutes. I can add to this section, but I cannot modify the fee. For that, I would need to close, go to the expenses and change that. And then at the bottom, you have notes that you can have predefined so that you guys don't have to type this information every single time you create an invoice. Let me quickly show you where to add those notes. In the administrator portal, that's why I like to have them side by side. So I can just click and go into the admin. So in the administrator portal, you're going to click on application settings. And then on the right-hand side, you should see locate billing. So this is where you can have your notes so that, again, you save time. And every time you create an invoice, these notes will appear. There are settings that I recommend that you take a look at because, again, what if you want to delete an invoice and if you don't have this box checked, or you won't be able to delete an invoice, so things like that. So I recommend that you explore what settings you have, and it's not just for billing in general. I highly recommend that you guys actually on August 8th, I'm going to be doing a webinar about the administrator, just in general. I recommend that you guys attend that one or at least watch the videos that we have because there are a couple of things here. Well, not a couple. There are more things that you're probably missing out just because you haven't enabled the setting, such as, auto convert images to PDFs or e-signatures. So if you don't have that setting on, you are not able to use it. All right, so let's go back to the invoice. Now that we know, oh, one more thing. How do I add the logo so that my logo shows here? Same thing, go into the admin, click on application settings, but this time go to branding. And this is where you can upload your logo. Make sure that it's 300 by 70 pixels in GIF format only. All right, so let's go back to the invoice. Now that I have the invoice the way I want it, I'm just going to click save on the top left. I'm just checking if you guys have any questions at this point. All right, so we have the invoice ready. I'm going to close it. And now it's right here. It's $100. So the reason why you don't see a label here is because there's no case attached to this invoice 3013. If there was a case related, then you can see that here. Now, okay, so let me add a late fee or a discount. So the way you add a late fee or a discount to an existing invoice, you have to click on your actions, select, and it's right here, manage discounts and late fees. Let's pretend the client hasn't paid us and we have a late fee. Again, I'm just going to put late fee. The amount is, I don't know what you guys charge, but let's say 25. And the date was yesterday, for example. So now we're just going to add. I see that you're raising your hand, but I can't unmute you. Locate the chat or the questions icon where you can chat me and say your question. All right, so I added a late fee. I'm just going to close. And now you should see the balance is 125. And when I open the invoice, it shows that, yes, we charge you for the consultation, but you haven't paid us and there's a late fee. So whenever they make a payment, you're going to actually, before I talk about processing payments, give me 1 second. Someone just sent. You know what? I don't know. The question is, can you legally charge a late fee? I don't know what the legal terms are for, um, for immigration attorneys. I know that a lot of attorneys do ask, how do I add a late fee? And they're doing it. So I assume it's legal, but you can always, research that just to make sure and have peace of mind. But I'm telling you, a lot of attorneys do implement, and it also has to do with your contract. What's in your, agreement? If you have a client sign a contract before the consultation, this is the terms. Another thing that I recommend that if they end up retaining you, you could also refund or use that, you know, consultation fee towards your services. So I'll show you right now a trick or a shortcut where you can pretty much refund or apply that credit if they have paid for a consultation and they end up hiring you and they retain you, then you can just, process that as a credit to, towards their service. All right. So moving forward, how do I process a payment? Okay. So once we have the invoice created, we're going to click on select add payment. This is where you select the type of payment. And that's why I was saying do not limit that to a specific item or type. So let's say they pay cash and they paid, I don't know, just 75. I'm just going to put the amount as if we got it yesterday and I add the payment. All right, so now we have a balance. I just want to show you what happens when you process a payment. Our invoices have a two-page section. Well, there's the payment history. Here's where you can see the type of payment, date, amount, and who applied or any notes. And then, of course, at the bottom, you see an invoice summary. So we know that the balance is just 50. Let's take a look at a large invoice like this one. They owed 6,750 and they have paid us 2,600. So here's the balance. Now, if I process a payment, again, I'm going to add the payment. Let's say we got a check and the amount is 1,000. Check number and the date. I add the payment. That's it. Again, if you want to look at the payment history, you can either open the invoice, go to the second page, and you can print it for your clients to see, yes, we processed your check and your balance is now 3,150. If clients are on payment plans, which I'll show you right now how to create payment plans, the balance obviously updates and the date. It's going to extend if you want to process the payment. And that's another setting, remember, that I talked about. If you go to billing, take a look at the settings, as I was saying, because you can apply overpayments to next installments. If you don't want to do that, you can just remove that and they still have to pay the amount on that payment plan, like the 500 the next month. Because I have that setting on where, again, it's applying all of these overpayments to the next installment amount, her due date now pushed until October. All right, so let's close the invoice. Another way for you to provide kind of like a receipt if they ask for it, if you click on that link where it says paid, it gives you the transactions for payments and you can select and print and just give them a history. These are your payments, the amounts, and if there's any requests. Now, how do I send a link for my clients to pay? Well, if I click on send payment link to client, it's pretty straightforward, but if you're new and you don't know where to find these, also if you haven't connected your LawPay or PayPal account, then you won't see that option. It's not going to be enabled. Here's where I can choose, do I send this link via email or just a text message? And it's from this department and it's going to show when they get a text message. They're going to see the amount and, the link so they can pay. All right, so let me just cancel. So that's how you can send the link for your clients to pay if you manually choose that. How do we create a payment plan? Okay, so I see your hand raised. Just send me a chat so I can read your question, please. I'm going to remove this payment plan so that I can create it. Hold on, let me see. 310. Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you how to create a payment plan. The invoice is created. They still owe 4,900. So I'm going to click on select payment plan. Their first payment due date is going to be next week on the 1st. The amount is going to be 300 every 2 weeks. You can customize this every 1 month. So again, it's up to you. And then I do want to notify my client via email, maybe 7 days before their due date. Or in this case, I'm just going to do 3 days before their due date. I also want to include that payment link. So not only they get an email with a reminder that their payment is due, but they have a chance through that link to pay. Even better, if you guys want to add their payment method, either credit card or ACH, well, you can schedule the payment plans and process that automatically. You just select the type of payment. All right, so I'm just going to save. And the payment plan has been established. How does that look like when I create a payment plan? Well, it tells you at the bottom of the invoice. Look, it's going to say payment plan details, 300 monthly, due date August 1st. This is what I was telling you. If they pay, maybe they sent a check or through Zelle, I don't know, transaction number, blah, blah. If it's Zelle, Venmo, Square, anything that's not your typical, cash check or money order, just select other. Here, I'm just gonna say they sell $150 today, and then I just add the payment. What happens is that now my payment plan has been adjusted, which means that on August 1st, she only owes 150. So it's been updated. And remember, the second page contains the payment history. So I can see the sell transaction, the dates, the amounts. So everything's pretty clear. Let me see. I know someone had a question, but I don't see you have. Maybe I already answered your question, but let me know. Okay, let's continue. I'm just waiting to see if someone has a question, but I'll just continue. How do I reverse a payment? Turns out that this client made a mistake. Um, it wasn't supposed to be for us, the sell. So we have to revert that. Well, if you go to reverse payment and you want to avoid that or provide a refund, here you need to enter the amount, the details. I'm just gonna say wrong client. I processed the payment. It was not this client, and the date was today. So I can void that. It has to match the amount, of course. And so now if we go back to the invoice, we're gonna see adjustment. So here's the explanation, like it was a wrong client. So I'm just voiding or canceling that payment. Keep in mind, the system is not going to adjust the payment plan. So you still see 150. That doesn't revert back. So in theory, they have to pay us 300. So that's something that you have to manually adjust if you want to just go to payment plan and delete and do it again. Just because, again, the system is not going to adjust or update after you do the refund or the payment void. All right, so let's continue. Let me go back. So this is what we covered. Remember, we're going to send you access to this PowerPoint so you can click on the links. Every time you click on a link, it's going to take us to the user's guide with either videos or step-by-step instructions. So I want you to receive that PowerPoint after today's webinar. All right, so let's go over now. Oh, there we go. Someone sent a question. Can you go over that again? I missed it. Sorry. Oh, sure. let's go back. So what I did, just to recap, was how do I reverse a payment? And so if I have a payment, let's say for this invoice, oh, this is the one that I just applied. Let me pick a different, let's pick this one, the one that has a late fee. So I processed a payment for 75 cash. And again, let's pretend this was a mistake. So we're going to click select, reverse payment, and I'm gonna choose void or refund. So I'm avoiding it because it's not a refund, it was a wrong client. And it was $75, and we processed that yesterday. So I'm voiding that, and now it goes back to the original balance. And if we reopen that invoice on the second page where we see the payment history, we're going to see the adjustment and the explanation. I believe this is something that you can block from your staff. Let me just take a look. Under the user section, whenever you guys have a paralegal or, I don't know, like a receptionist or data entry, anyone who's using the system, I don't know if you are aware of this, but when you have an account for a user, you can limit the access, like what days can they log in, what times. But also, if you look at billing, you can allow or block access to billing. And if they are allowed to access billing, can they delete an invoice or not? Are they allowed to reverse a payment or not, or provide discounts or late fees? So this is up to you. You can either allow it or block it, just so you know. Okay. Yesterday, someone called me because she couldn't create cases. And the reason why is because this box wasn't checked. So the attorney forgot to enable this, and her paralegal wasn't able to create new cases, even though she had access to all cases. I mean, this is important for you to uh, review to make sure that all the settings are on or off, depending on what you want. All right, so let's see. I have a question for accounting purposes. Is there a, what is this? Function for write-offs when we are unable to continue with a case? Um, you know what? I don't know if that would be the adjustment. I'm not 100% sure how attorneys do it. Sometimes attorneys use like QuickBooks or another accounting service. This is mostly just for processing the payments, the invoices, but it would be, I think I would do just an adjustment so that it shows 0. But since I'm not 100% sure, I would rather just ask our team how other attorneys do it. Mm. Oh, function. I was like, what is she asking? Is there a function for write-ups? So yeah, probably an adjustment and specify why you're not able to continue with the case, and some sort of like refund if there's any trust account deposits. Um, if I initially input the wrong invoice charge, only added retainer fee to the invoice, left out the charge for the whole case, how can I fix that? Unfortunately, you guys cannot modify an invoice. Say, for example, I was supposed to charge 10,000, it was only 6,000 here. I cannot modify that. The only thing you can add is either a late fee, a discount. Like I said, I can avoid, but you would have to create another invoice or simply delete this one and start all over. So you cannot add additional charges for an existing invoice unless it's just a late fee. All right, so let's continue with the timekeeper. Okay, so if you charge per hour, remember that in the administrator portal, you can specify under your billing items what, what is the charge, how much, and if it's a per hour fee, you just select this drop-down menu that says hour. That's how you can specify if it's flat versus hourly rate. And so once we have that, how do I chart? So first of all, how do I keep track of my time? If you have access to our optional module, Timekeeper, you're going to see it. Otherwise, it's going to be grayed out. You can always contact our sales team members if you want to get a quote to either upgrade your current package or to swap modules. So the Timekeeper allows you to start the timer and track your time for, I don't know, consultation or time that we spend working on forms, a commute to court hearings, whatever it is. In fact, when you guys, let me just pause this. When you guys add the description, there's going to be a drop down menu where you can say, you know what, this was the time that we spent prepping RFEs. If you need to customize this checklist, just go into your admin portal, application settings, under Timekeeper on the right-hand side. So this is where you can specify those predetermined descriptions. And then of course you can modify the settings. Like I said, I want to allow my team to either track one timer at a time or more than one. So you can, customize those settings. So once I have that, in fact, I can just edit and say this is for Valeria Smith and I save it. I could also modify if I am allowed to, because remember, this is something that you can customize. So it looks like we spent, oops, not 10 hours, but 1 hour prepping for the RFE. And now it's time for me to modify, sorry, not modify, move to per account. I can move this entry to the client profile or the case profile. And once I move that to the case, I want to also create the expense. So let me search for Smith's case, and I'm going to move that fee. It's going to tell me, okay, for RFE, we charge 95 per hour. So I'm just going to select that fee. When you select, you see the check mark. It's very subtle. So just so you know. And then you could also modify the time entry. Again, either you can round it and the date. So maybe this RFE that we worked on was on Monday. So now it's time for us to finish and navigate to the time entries. Eventually, you're going to have a list of entries for what is this about, how long we spend working on this task. And of course, when you go to your billing section under the expenses and charges, you're going to see that based on that time that we spent and the fee, they owe $126. So it's going to calculate based on this amount and the fee, okay, the unit price. Of course, after you have this done, then you can just create your invoices. Attorneys sometimes just add expenses as they go if it's not a flat fee. So it really depends on how you guys work. But I just wanted to explain that it shows you the total expenses and the amount of time. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm reading a question. How do you do the adjustments? Okay. The adjustment, let's go back to an invoice. Let's say this one. Um, she owes 4,900 and we need to reverse that because again, the case was closed. I don't even know what the reason was, but let's just say case closed and we need to provide the refund. So now we're going to enter the amount. Again, if they have paid, because they probably deposit into the trust account, or I simply just want to avoid this because the case was closed. We never really got to charge on maybe just the initial fee. I don't know, it could vary. But select the date, select the amount. It has to match. And then just void. Now let's take a look. I'm going to open that. And it's going to show 0. So the case was closed. The amount was, I think I put probably less. Let me double check. Yeah, I was supposed to do it for 7,200 and I only put 2,300. I made a mistake. But your adjustment is going to look like this with the correct amount, sorry, and the reference. This is what I was talking about. We had to close the case or, you know, whatever the reason is, and the amount has to match with the corresponding date. So it's going to say adjustment. When you run reports, you can also choose, show me how many adjustments, how many late fees, do we have any discounts, or are we able to add a new category to the manage? No, unfortunately, you can't modify this. Yeah. The only thing you can modify after you create an invoice is if you go to your settings, you can change for example, the address or the type of payment. You can change the settings, but not the actual amounts or the categories. Okay. All right. So let's go back to what's our next item? Okay, QuickBooks. If you guys have QuickBooks in your package, it means that you do not have billing or with Cerenade. It's either Cerenade's billing option, sorry, optional module, or QuickBooks optional module, either or. So how does that QuickBooks module work? When you go to the case, you're gonna click on billing, and you're gonna see the QuickBooks billing. So QuickBooks billing is right here. You need to search for your client's name and select. It's going to allow you to create charges so that when you submit them to QuickBooks, you're going to see in QuickBooks that Valeria Smith Lee has these charges that are accepted. If you want to change the settings for QuickBooks, go into your administrator portal under application settings, and where you see QuickBooks, just go to settings, and this is where you can modify. If you don't want to see those fees or charges as accepted, just pending, just change the settings here. But this is an integration that works one way. It's not going to reflect anything you do in QuickBooks. You're not going to see it here. So if you want to create an invoice, process a payment, run a report, you have to log into your QuickBooks account. Okay. All right. So smart alerts. Give me 1 second. Let me see if someone has any other questions. Okay, I answered that one. No, you're not able to add category. Is there an option to translate forms? Yes, forms, but not an invoice. If you want to translate the invoice, you can create a version in Spanish. Remember, we have that service for a custom invoice. If you're talking about actual government forms, then yes, we have that feature available now. Let me open a form. So I'm thinking this is what you're referring to, that we have the translation. And if I want to translate the form to Spanish, I don't know, Japanese, I can translate that. Now, this was released recently during the AILA conference. I'm not sure if you all have access to this module now or this feature now. If not, it should be out next week or the next week. I mean, in either a week or two. I mean, this was released or announced during the AILA conference in Denver. So I'm not sure if I'm using our testing site. I would just double check with our team just to make sure. But yes, you can at least show this to your clients so they can see what's the question being asked. And if they type something, for example, no lo entiendo, you also get to translate to English. Okay. All right. So let's close. I don't know if that's what you meant when you asked me about the forms translation option, but if you're referring to invoices that can translate, then this template, you can create a template. You just send us your request to get a quote. Okay. All right. So last item in my list which I really, really appreciate. Well, besides reports, which I'm going to show you as well, it's the smart alerts. And the reason why I say I appreciate it is because if I'm busy, I'm distracted, and I don't have the time to contact my clients or remember that someone owes me, I get an alert. How do I set that alert up? So go into your admin portal. Under the type section, you're going to see global client alerts and global case alerts. It's up to you if you want to add that under the case profile or the client profile. I personally recommend client because the way that most of the attorneys work is they first search for the contact and they go into the contact, and that's when they get this alert. Hey, someone owes you. This person has overdue invoices. So this is the alert that I'm talking about. Even if I dismiss that alert, I see this dancing red bell on the left-hand side. If I click on that, I can read the alert again. And it's not just for invoices, it could be anything else. I have another alert that says if a person has an adverse party, just for conflict of interest, like let me know. I could always add another alert, success, client finally paid us, or so you can add any alerts. These alerts that your staff can manually add, you could modify them or you could delete. But the alerts that you create globally from the administrator portal, they cannot modify and they cannot delete. So let's go over that. I'm going to click on Global Client Alerts. Let me delete this one so that you guys can see how it's done. Okay. When you go into Global Client Alerts, click Add Alert and select, I don't know, whatever type, warning, info, whatever you guys want to, I don't know, the danger, but if someone owes me this much, then it is probably uh, an alert that says call the police. So the advanced alert has to say invoices are overdue. So you're telling the system if there is an invoice that's overdue, alert me. Okay. Let me add another alert. Warning, advance alert, client members has an adverse party, or client member has blah blah. Like you can choose. It's usually done for like a conflict of interest reasons. So if there is an adverse party, like an abuser, and we're helping my client for a VAWA case, of course, this person comes in, there's a conflict of interest, I'm not going to represent him. So that's why people use these alerts. So let's take a look. If I refresh my screen, see, now my alerts show. Because she has overdue invoices and she has an adverse party under the members right here. Okay. Let me see. I think someone has a question. Can you add on the alert types, accounting or billing to tell the, can you add on the alert types, accounting or billing? Oh, unfortunately, no. I think I understand what you're saying. The type of billing items, you mean like they owe me this type of item, like a consultation versus, no, we can't. It's just in general, when there's an invoice that's overdue, then it's going to alert me every time that I access her profile. Another way to see kind of like a history of invoices is if you go to invoices, you can see at the bottom the total amount, regardless of the case or the reason. I can see the total invoices, total payment amounts, and then of course what's left, what's the balance. See, this is why I say call the police. They owe me $500,000. So how do we get a report? On the left-hand side, you can go to standard reports and then go to billing. If you want to see invoices that have a pending balance, any overdue invoices, or those invoices that are overdue with payment plans, these are new reports, by the way. Um, Especially if you are connected to LawPay or PayPal and you want to see how many payments went through successfully or how many payments that were scheduled for, like automatic payments didn't go through, they failed. So I can run those reports. Just to give you an idea, I'm going to run a report and I can export to PDF, Excel, HTML. I have 596 records. It tells me the name of the client, the amount of the invoice, how many payments they've made. And then, of course, it looks like they're supposed to be paying me 500 every month, and this is their due date. So this is where you can, again, maybe even delegate, tell your team members like, okay, if they owe this much since more than, I don't know, 30, 60, 90 days, contact them. Another thing that I want to show you, which is our tickler, you can customize it. Your tickler is a general dashboard where you guys can see, and again, you can have different versions or layouts. This is where you can see your accounts receivable aging as well. I have it 30, 60, 90 days, or anything that's overdue past 91 days. You can see who owes you, the invoice number, of course, the date, and the amount. So if you guys want to customize your tickler, go on the top right corner where you have your settings and then click on user preferences. Your tickler has settings or layout that you can modify. So if you want to add more sections, like again, show me my accounts receivable aging report right here. Or I don't care for case reminders or case expiration dates. You can customize your tickler. And I also recommend that you change your time frames. Maybe for reminders, you want to see anything that's past due, 5 days before and then the next 15 days. Or so you can customize the time frames for any specific documents, passports, I-94s, or in general. And then here's the accounts receivable aging. So maybe not 30, but 15 days that it's overdue. Still, even if you don't run a report, even if you don't look at the tickler, the reason why I like the alerts is because anyone who acts as a profile, who's not even in the accounting department, they can see this alert and, notify the team. All right, so let me see if you guys have any other questions. No, I already answered that. Any questions at this point? I'm just going to allow you to just click and vote. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. Thank you so much for those who voted. One more thing before we finish the webinar. If you guys are subscribed to custom reports, I highly recommend that you schedule a report because that way you don't even have to generate manually an Excel. You can just say, hey, give me a report that shows any invoices that have a pending balance, any invoices that missed payments in the last 3 to 6 months, or you can create any type of report, okay? I'll just say, show me the ones that have a balance by case number. I want to say, I want to receive an Excel spreadsheet on a daily basis, starting on Monday until the year, I don't know, if we're still here, 2030. And then I'll just send it to my accounting department. That way, if, even if they're not using eIMMIGRATION, they don't have a license, they can still cross balance and check with your other systems if you're using QuickBooks, or they can cross balance and say, okay, based on the payments they have received, these are the ones that are pending. So they get this Excel on a daily or weekly basis automatically. Okay, so anyone, as long as they have an email address and you just enter their email addresses here. I believe there's a limit here, so meaning like the characters, so you can just CC or BCC anyone else. I highly recommend that you guys use the reports, custom reports module to save you time. Your staff could, for example, get an email on a daily basis to know what are your priorities, like what are your appointments. Do we have any documents that expire, any deadlines or process steps or tasks that are due? Anything you can think of, you just create a report and schedule it. So this is custom reports module. I didn't have that in my PowerPoint, but I just wanted to mention that since I think it's very helpful. All right, so let's go over the resources and support. Of course, you're going to have questions while if you're new or while you learn something new, and we're here to help you. If you have questions, please call us Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We're in Los Angeles, so Pacific Standard Time. That's our phone number, except on holidays. Or you can email us 24/7. That's our email address, ecmssupport@cerenade.com. And if you click on your home screen, actually, let me quickly show you. If you go here on the top right corner where it says help, it says technical support. So you can just send us a question here. In fact, one of the questions that I wasn't able to answer, you can just submit it just so that we don't have that, that question. You just send that and our team can respond. So that's the section that I was referring to right here where it says home screen option. Same icon allows you to send your feedback to developers. Anything that you guys like or dislike, just click on the top right corner. It says right there, feedback. So if I like something or I didn't like something about the system, please let us know so that we can improve the system and help you. Give me 1 second. All right, we have the user's guide where you can just search for any articles, any videos. We do these webinars for free. And how do I know what topics are coming? When you go into your caseworker portal under the action that says right here, help, it says training calendar. And it's going to take you to our website where you can see any event. And the one that I was referring to is on August 8th for those who are administrators, or you probably never really took that class and you're missing out because there are settings that you never enabled. So I recommend that you register and attend. If not, at least watch the video. And next week, we're going to do a basic training for new users. So just the basics, how to create contacts, how to link the members, create, work with forms, all of that. We have a Facebook forum page. If you haven't joined, here's a link where you can connect with other users. And lastly, our YouTube channel so that you can watch these videos. Every time we do a webinar, we upload the video. Here's the one that we just recently did, which was pretty cool. I highly recommend it. I share like useful tricks and shortcuts. So you can watch that now. It's a time-saving hack for caseworkers. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, please. And that's pretty much it. Let me see if anyone has any questions before we disconnect. If you have to go, thank you on behalf of Cerenade for joining us today. Okay, someone is asking, can you go back to the new reports? Yeah, of course. So if you have to disconnect, thank you again for joining us. I'm going to stick around for more questions. We still have more time. All right, so reports. Yes, so the reports that we have, if you click on the magnifier on the left, go to standard reports, and then click on billing on the right-hand side, okay? The new reports that we have are overdue invoices for payment plans. I believe we had these ones. I know that they added new reports. So see, this is exactly why I suggest that you speak up and tell them this is what I like or I don't like about it, because a client requested a report type and they added that. So now we have these reports here. So just click select run if you want to see the report. It shows that I have these overdue invoices. And again, it shows the client. I can click on the link and it's going to take me to that profile. I can download the report as PDF, Excel, or HTML. This is what I was telling you, that you can manually do it. But if you guys create a custom report and schedule it, even better, because you can share this report with anyone in your organization without them necessarily they don't have to log in or use the system. Let me know if I answer your question, or when you said, can you go back to reports? I'm not sure if you wanted me to show you a specific report. But yeah, this is what I recommend that you guys utilize. And these are standard reports. If you have billing, you can see the reports. And if anyone can run a report to show how many clients do we have, how many cases have we done by form. So those reports are standard for everyone. All right, let me know if you guys have any other questions at this point. If you don't, like I said, thank you for attending the webinar. And let me just throw one more poll and ask you this. So you have a poll in progress. If you don't mind, click to vote. I just want to let you know that if you guys recommend a colleague and they sign up because of you, you both get a benefit. They get a $50 credit, you get a $50 gift card. So take advantage of that. If you know someone who's struggling, because the struggle is real, they're doing everything manually, they're not aware of e-immigration, just let them know. And that way, if they sign up, it's because of you and you get a benefit, a credit. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to end the poll. And again, on behalf of Cerenade, I want to thank you for joining us today. Have a great weekend, everyone. And stay tuned. We're going to send you an email with the video for today's webinar and the PowerPoint. Thank you again for using eImmigration on behalf of Cerenade.